Hi, my name is Renesia Martin, and I was born in Chicago, Illinois. I grew up in a home where I witnessed family violence, and it was a pretty traumatic. I had pretty much a traumatic childhood in that I witnessed my mother nearly killed by my father. It was a terrifying feeling for me to have grown up in a home where my mother was being physically abused, and I was seeing that abuse. And looking back on my life, as a child, I did not realize that what was taking place in my home was not taking place in everyone's home. One of the things that I think it cost me in growing up in that home was it cost me my self-esteem or my belief and confidence in myself. I had a belief and confidence in everything and everyone with the exception of myself. And I think that's one of the things that it really cost me. And as I went through a process of finding healing and wholeness, I feel like that was the largest boulder that I had to move. And even today, it's still something that I continually have to keep in the forefront, is following my own intuition, believing in myself, and making an investment in myself. And I would say that is what growing up in a home with violence really cost me, is that I didn't have the filters that someone else would normally have to know when they're safe or when they're not safe, or even the filter of knowing when I was afraid. I think for a lot of my life I felt fear, but because I had learned to mask my fear and push past fear, I didn't really understand or know when I was afraid. And so a turning point for me was seeking out counseling. I believe that's the best way to overcome, is either through communicating, expressing your feelings, getting with someone who you trust, who you know who's a safe person to confide some of the things that you've experienced in your life. For me, I always tried to hide from my past. I was so embarrassed. When I understood what had taken place, I was so ashamed and embarrassed, and it was almost like a belief that there was something I could have done about it, or that in some ways it was my fault, or there was some way that I could control it. And so I spent most of my life trying to run from my past, and really in reality I was always running to that which I was running from, in the form of abusive relationships. So a turning point for me was seeking out counseling and talking with friends that I could trust and know that they loved me and I could confide my deepest secrets in. I would say that while my childhood was very traumatic, there were also many gifts that came from it. And that one of the gifts is that while I was growing up in that home, I did have a sibling, my brother Lorenzo, and we have a profound bond still to this day. And I think part of that bond stems out of the trauma that we experienced, and how we chose to overcome. And to give the message to anyone who has gone through that or who's currently in an abusive situation, for them to see that you can come out and that you can overcome every adversity, that your potential is not limited by what you've gone through. The only limits that you have are those that you place on yourself. So if I would leave you with any message, that would be the message I would leave for you. And so you can, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what the adversity is, inside of you is the ability and the skill set to overcome, to take that oppressive situation and turn it into an opportunity. Thank you.